Welcome everyone to our discussion today. We're looking at a topic many of us know well: online impulse buying. Is it just a bit of harmless fun, a way to treat ourselves now and then? Or could it be a habit that we really need to watch carefully? It's so easy to click buy now these days, but what are the real effects of these spontaneous purchases? We want to explore both sides of this interesting question. To help us understand different views, we have two guests. First, there's Leo, who believes that these buys can actually be a positive thing if we manage them well. And we also have Chloe, who has some concerns and thinks we should be more cautious about this type of shopping. Today, Leo and Chloe will start by sharing their main thoughts on the topic. After that, we'll have a discussion to explore their ideas more deeply. Finally, they will each give a short summary of their views. We hope this conversation will give you all something to think about.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm happy to share my thoughts. I believe that online impulse buys are not always the enemy they are sometimes made out to be. In my opinion, they can be a small, enjoyable part of modern life, as long as we are sensible and approach them with a bit of awareness. Think about it. Sometimes, after a really long and difficult week at work or studying, a small, unplanned purchase can be a lovely treat. It's a little reward we give ourselves. Maybe it's downloading a new album from a band you like, or buying that funny t-shirt you saw advertised that just made you smile. These small things can genuinely lift your spirits and bring a moment of happiness. It doesn't have to be something expensive or extravagant. The joy often comes from the spontaneity and the feeling of treating yourself. Another great thing about these spontaneous online buys is the element of discovery. How many times have you been browsing online and stumbled upon something really interesting or useful that you weren't actively looking for? Perhaps it's a clever kitchen gadget that saves you time, or a book by an author you've never heard of, but end up loving. Or maybe a unique gift for a friend that you wouldn't have found otherwise. These accidental finds can introduce us to new hobbies, new ideas, or products from small businesses we might want to support. It's a form of exploration, in a way. Of course, the key to all of this is balance and personal responsibility. I'm not saying we should all go on wild online shopping sprees without thinking. It's very important to have a budget and to be aware of how much you're spending. If you know what you can afford for these kinds of fun purchases and you stick to that limit, then it doesn't become a financial problem. It's about making a conscious choice. If you've considered your finances and decide that a small impulse buy fits within your means, then it's your decision to make. So, to sum up my opening thoughts, I don't see online impulse buying as an inherently bad thing. When managed with a bit of thought and control, it can be a simple pleasure, a way to discover new things, and a perfectly acceptable part of our lives.
Thank you, Sarah. And Leo, I understand your points about enjoyment, but I see things quite differently. I believe that online impulse buys often lead to more problems than pleasures, and can easily develop into a genuinely bad habit. The main issue for me starts with the word impulse itself. An impulse buy, by definition, is a purchase made without much prior thought or planning. We see something, and we buy it in the moment. This lack of careful consideration means we often end up buying things we don't truly need, or sometimes, things we don't even really want, after the initial excitement wears off. How many of us have items at home that we bought on impulse and have barely used? Then there's the financial aspect, which is a major concern. Online shopping is designed to be incredibly easy, sometimes too easy. With one-click ordering and saved payment details, we can spend money almost without thinking. These small purchases can add up incredibly quickly. A few dollars here, a few euros there. Before you know it, you've spent a significant amount of money that perhaps you couldn't really afford, or that could have been used for more important things, like bills, savings, or future goals. This can lead to financial stress, difficulty managing your budget, and in some cases, even debt. It's a slippery slope. And what happens to all these things we buy on impulse? Often, they contribute to clutter in our homes. We end up with drawers full of gadgets we don't use, clothes we wore once, or decorations that just gather dust. This physical clutter can also lead to mental clutter. It can make our living spaces feel disorganized and chaotic, which in turn can make us feel stressed, overwhelmed, or even regretful about our spending choices. That fleeting moment of happiness from the purchase is often followed by a longer period of guilt or frustration. It's not a sustainable way to find joy. So in my view, what might start as an occasional, seemingly harmless treat can very easily become a regular problematic habit. It's a habit that can negatively affect our finances, our living environment, and our overall well-being.
Thank you both for those clear opening statements. Leo, you emphasized being sensible, but online shops are very clever. They use many tricks to encourage us to buy immediately. How do you, or how can people generally maintain that control when it's designed to be so easy to just click and buy? And Chloe, you've highlighted the negatives, but is there absolutely no room for a small, spontaneous purchase to genuinely be a good thing? A little bright spot, as Leo suggested?
That's a fair question, Sarah. It's definitely true that online stores are designed to make buying as easy and tempting as possible. They use targeted ads, limited time offers, and those very persuasive buy now buttons. However, I believe we can still be smart shoppers. One technique I personally use is the quote, waiting period. If I see something I want to buy on impulse, I often add it to my online shopping basket or wish list, and then I close the tab and wait for at least 24 hours. You'd be surprised how often, after a day, the urge has passed, and I realize I don't actually need or want the item that much. It gives me time to think if it's a real desire, or just a momentary whim. It's a bit like window shopping on the high street. You might admire many things in a shop window, but you don't go in and buy every single one. We can apply a similar mindset online. And yes, I do think a small, unexpected gift for yourself, provided you can genuinely afford it, and it's not happening too often, can be perfectly okay. It can be a little reward that brightens an otherwise ordinary day.
Leo, your idea of waiting a day is certainly a good strategy, and I commend you for that discipline. However, I think we need to be realistic about how many people actually do that. The very nature of impulse buying is that it bypasses that kind of rational delay. The Buy Now button, the countdown timers for deals, these are specifically designed to create a sense of urgency and make us act before we think too much. And while a purchase might provide a brief moment of happiness, as you say, my concern is that this happiness is often very short-lived. What often follows is the worry about the money spent, or the realization that the item isn't as useful or exciting as it seemed in the moment. It's not always about falling into major debt, though that is a serious risk for some. It's also about the cumulative effect of many small, unnecessary expenses. That money could be going towards savings for a holiday, an emergency fund, further education, or even just more meaningful experiences, rather than more stuff. Those small amounts really do add up, and can prevent people from reaching their bigger financial goals or having a safety net.
Interesting points. Chloe, you just touched on how online stores are designed to make us act quickly. Leo, considering these sophisticated marketing techniques, do you really think most people are truly in control of their impulse buying, or are they being subtly manipulated? And Chloe, while you're rightly cautious, Leo mentioned discovering new things. Is there perhaps a positive side to stumbling upon new products or small businesses online, even if the initial encounter is somewhat impulsive?
That's a crucial point, Sarah. Yes, we absolutely need to be aware of how online stores operate. They use sophisticated algorithms, personalized advertising, and psychological triggers like scarcity, only two left, or social proof. Others also bought. It's naive to think we're completely immune to these influences. However, being aware is the first step to being in control. If we understand the game, we can choose how we play it. it doesn't mean we have to avoid online shopping altogether, and there can be a genuinely good side to it. For example, I've discovered some fantastic independent artists and small ethical businesses online purely by chance, through a link or an ad that caught my eye. I wouldn't have found them otherwise. Sometimes I've also found a very specific tool for a hobby, or a book on a niche topic that I didn't even know existed, but turned out to be incredibly useful or interesting. So it's not all negative manipulation. It's about cultivating a mindset of being an informed and conscious shopper, rather than just passively clicking on every shiny thing that pops up.
I agree that discovering new things can be positive, Leo, but the core of my concern remains with the, quote, impulse nature of these discoveries when it comes to purchasing. If you are actively researching or exploring with an open mind, that's one thing, but an impulse buy often means the online store's marketing directly triggered your purchase, not a genuine need or a planned search on your part. It's far better, I think, to discover new things when you consciously decide to look for them, perhaps by setting aside time to browse specific types of sites or explore recommendations from trusted sources, rather than when an algorithm or a cleverly placed advertisement dictates it. The reality is that many people do feel they lose control. They report buying things late at night when they're tired and their judgment is impaired, or when they're feeling bored, lonely, or sad, using shopping as a temporary emotional fix. That's not a healthy coping mechanism, and it's a pattern that online retailers can unfortunately exploit. This is where it moves from a simple purchase to a potentially harmful behavior.
So, to bring my thoughts together, I genuinely believe that online impulse shopping isn't automatically a villain that we must completely avoid. Like many things in life, it has the potential for both good and bad, depending on how we approach it. When managed thoughtfully, it can be a pleasant way to treat ourselves to small joys, a fun way to discover new and interesting items, unique products, or even useful services that we might not have found through traditional searching. It can also be a way to support small businesses, artists, and creators who rely on online platforms to reach their customers. That's a positive economic impact. The truly important things, in my view, are self-awareness and responsibility. This means knowing your budget and sticking to it carefully. It means taking that brief moment to think before you click confirm purchase, perhaps using that 24-hour waiting period I mentioned. And crucially, it's about being honest with yourself, about why you are buying something. Are you buying it because you genuinely want or need it? Or because you're feeling a certain emotion, or because an advert was particularly persuasive? I am convinced that we can navigate the vibrant world of online shopping and enjoy its conveniences and opportunities for discovery without letting it become a financial or psychological problem. It's all about finding that balance and practicing responsible enjoyment.
In conclusion, while I can see Leo's point that a single, small impulse buy on its own might seem harmless, I firmly believe that the habit of online impulse buying is a risky one, with significant potential downsides. This habit can very easily lead to a cycle of overspending, accumulating unwanted clutter in our homes, and experiencing subsequent feelings of regret, anxiety, or guilt about our purchases and our finances. We must always remember that online shops are often meticulously designed environments. Their primary goal is to encourage us to buy, often by bypassing our rational thought processes and appealing directly to our emotions or our desire for instant gratification. Therefore, I advocate for a more mindful and intentional approach to shopping. It is much healthier and more sustainable in the long run to plan your purchases carefully, to be consciously aware of your spending habits and your financial goals. It's also important to cultivate other sources of happiness and fulfillment in our lives, rather than relying on the temporary thrill of acquiring new material possessions that we often don't truly need. Ultimately, taking control of our purchasing decisions, resisting the urge for instant buys, and focusing on long-term well-being will serve us far better than giving in to every online temptation.
Thank you so much, Leo, and Thank you, Chloe, for sharing your very thoughtful and different perspectives on what is undoubtedly a very common experience for many of us in the digital age. We've heard some really strong points from both of you today. Leo has made a good case for the idea of responsible indulgence, highlighting how online impulse buys can be seen as occasional treats or a way to discover new things if managed with awareness and a clear budget. On the other hand, Chloe has provided important warnings about the ease with which these purchases can become a problematic habit, leading to financial strain and other negative consequences, especially given how online environments are structured. It's clear there's a lot to consider. Hopefully, this discussion has given all our listeners some valuable food for thought, encouraging everyone to reflect a little more on their own online shopping habits and find a balance that works for them. That is all the time we have for today's program. Thank you for joining us and for listening.